Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. I want to ask John Hood and Chris Fitzsimon. Our Supreme Court recently upheld a ruling under the Racial Justice Act that nullified a death sentence influenced, they said, by racism. Many are saying the ruling underscores the need to eliminate the death penalty in our state. Is it time to do this, John?
I don't think so. I still believe in capital punishment as a necessary part of a justice system in response to egregious murders, and that's really what it's for, what it should be for. I feel that there simply is no just punishment for certain kinds of crimes other than to be executed. Certain kinds of egregious murders of law enforcement officers, multiple, basically serial killers, other kinds of horrendous kinds of cases. I just think there's no alternative. Now, that having been said, it's challenging to administer fairly. It is costly. There's a lot of debate about the deterrence effect, but in my view, ultimately, a society that refuses to execute certain kinds of horrendous killers is a society without justice.
In reality, though, we've not executed anybody in North Carolina since, 2003?
It's been a long time.
And the statistics have shown that it costs less to put somebody in prison behind bars for life than it does to go through all the appeals process and so forth of execution. Chris, your vantage point on this.
Well, as you know, I have a lot of problems with capital punishment. It's just stunning to me that we remain one of the few developed countries in the world that has this as a punishment on the books. And we have most of our neighbors around the world, most of the countries that we are in alliances with long ago abolished this barbaric practice. I remember being a kid, my father always actually said, you don't kill somebody to show that killing is wrong. But so that's just a difference in philosophy. However, what I find even as troubling is that we have it and it is not applied fairly. John mentioned it should be reserved for those very heinous and worst cases. We've executed people in North Carolina who were drivers of cars who drove somebody else who committed a murder. We clearly have bias in the way study after study have shown it's not applied fairly. African Americans are not allowed on juries at the same rate. There's so many issues, and all those things are bad enough in the normal criminal justice system procedures. But when it is irreversible act, like actually taking someone's life and there's no recourse, then I think that might be the most compelling argument of all of why not to have capital punishment.
Where do we stand on this Racial Justice Act business? I know that the North Carolina legislature negated it. The court has come back and reaffirmed it. Isn't that right, John?
Well, what it said is that you can't retroactively. You can't. So the attempt by the legislature to prevent appeals that had already been started under the Racial Justice Act. I mean, that was a judicial finding that I think was not so much about the Racial Justice Act itself and its merits, which of course is not what judges are supposed to be determining, but instead a rather legitimate question about can you retroactively take away a cause to appeal. So
at the end of the day, answer, are we going to do away with the capital punishment or not, John?
It is certainly possible the capital punishment will never be resumed effectively in North Carolina. I don't feel good about that, but I understand the concerns people have about it.
Okay. Chris?
I think it's likely at some point that we'll probably do away with capital punishment. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon in North Carolina, unfortunately.
There are a decreasing number of states that are using capital punishment as a penalty. Well, thanks for watching the Afterspin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.